A weekend pause did not change the sour mood on the stock market.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Bitwarden Password Manager with a reminder that spring cleaning isn't just for closets. Bitwarden is designed to help clean up weak or reused passwords and secure sensitive information across all logins and devices. Bitwarden.com.
I'm David Brancaccio in Los Angeles. S&P and NASDAQ futures are both down about 2%, with markets opening officially soon. Stocks in Asia were a mess today. Japan's Nikkei down 7.8%. Here's the BBC's Mariko Oy.
It's been described by some analysts as absolute carnage or even a financial bloodbath. All we've been seeing all day is sea of red, arrows pointing downwards. Now, the stock markets in mainland China, Hong Kong and Taiwan, they were actually closed for a public holiday on Friday. So they're playing a bit of a catch-up. And as a result, we're seeing even sharper losses in those markets as well.
Some captains of Wall Street have been getting more outspoken, opposing President Trump's tariffs hard line. In a letter to shareholders, the CEO of the biggest bank, Jamie Dimon of J.P. Morgan Chase, writes he had been expecting an economic soft landing, but that now he's not so sure. And billionaire hedge fund man Bill Ackman, a strong supporter of Donald Trump during the campaign, called for a 90-day timeout for the tariffs, warning of a, quote, self-induced economic nuclear winter. Just Thursday and Friday, the market mess erased $6 trillion in paper value of stocks. Will these tariffs stick?
The big question right now facing the Trump administration, are the new tariffs permanent considering the global market meltdown? Trump's advisors have not been able to clear things up. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick was on CBS's Face the Nation on Sunday.
Remember, this is a national security issue.
I got it. Is the 10% tariff
our budget
permanent?
deficit? That, the laws of America are the laws of America.
Meanwhile, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said some 50 countries have reached out to negotiate. But the president, speaking to reporters on Air Force One, appeared in no hurry to strike deals.
They said, we're not going to have deficits with your country. We're not going to do that because to me a deficit is a loss.
Trump said he wants, at minimum, equalized trade, presumably in goods alone. The president also seemed unfazed by the global market reaction so far. I'm Nova Safo for Marketplace.
And there's news just now. A federal appeals court has blocked President Trump from removing Democrats from labor union oversight boards.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Schwab. Schwab offers investors choices like full-service wealth management, self-directed investing options, and trading on Thinkorswim. More at schwab.com.
A check-in now on consumers and credit.
Here's the glass half empty scenario brought to you by Ted Rossman at Bankrate.com.
Credit card balances are at record highs, up more than 50% from 2021.
Delinquency rates have been rising since 2022, and more than 10% of credit card bills are more than 90 days late.
We're seeing more people using cards just to get by for groceries and gas.
Okay, now for the glass slightly more full.
Overall levels of debt to income, it looks pretty good.
Kurt Long at America's Credit Unions says most consumers can still afford to keep up, even with interest rates topping 20%. But he says that could change.
If the labor market really starts to deteriorate,
delinquencies tend to rise in lockstep with unemployment. And Ted Rossman's biggest worry?
Auto loans. Delinquencies there are worse than they were during the financial crisis.
People really try to pay that bill first, because if you don't, they repossess. I'm Mitchell Hartman for Marketplace.
And we are launching a new series today, Buy Now, Pay Later, focusing on retirees who still owe money. Here's Marketplace's senior economics contributor, Chris Farrell.
Older Americans are increasingly carrying debt into retirement, and the amount of debt is also on the rise. Minling Zong is a senior research associate at the Urban Institute.
In 1989, about 58% of older adults over the age of 50 carry debt in retirement. And in 2020, that percentage has jumped to 78%.
Owing money isn't necessarily bad. Even upper-income households, say, earning $260,000 or more, take out loans to buy homes, cars, and appliances. Young adults borrow to pay for their education and to start a family. That said, the standard personal finance recommendation is to eliminate debt around retirement. Everyday life at older ages is financially riskier with debt, especially for people of modest means. Yet fewer near retirees and retirees are debt-free. Odette Williamson is senior attorney with the National Consumer Law Center.
It has to do with cutback in some safety net provisions. It has to do with increase in expenses, most recently due to inflation. And it has to do with the fact that older adults are aging with just fewer resources.
The combination of debt and low savings among older adults is pushing more households into the ranks of the financially precarious. 3 major factors are driving the trend.
We found that the debt-creating institutions overwhelmed our wealth-creating institutions.
Teresa Ghilarducci is a professor of economics at the New School of Social Research. Ghilarducci says the value of home equity for the bottom 90%, measured by wealth, has barely increased over the past 40 years. Lenders made it easier to borrow from home equity, lowered down payment requirements, and similar innovations. People also borrow to pay for the basics of modern life.
People were able to also get car loans and other kinds of durable consumer purchases on loans rather than cash.
Debt is also the other side of the lack of retirement savings coin. Nearly half of private sector workers and some 2/3 of lower wage workers don't have access to a retirement savings plan at work. Finally, wages rose slowly for most workers in recent decades, especially for Black, Latino, and women. Yet the costs of everyday living went up. Odette Williamson.
I'm seeing the debt increase for everyone, but it's a matter of whether you have the resources to deal with the debt.
Nearly half of older adults surveyed by AARP who are carrying a balance use credit cards to cover basic living expenses. Toss in home equity loans, medical debts, student loans, auto loans, and mortgages, and the accumulation of debt signals that too many older adults are living on a financial precipice. I'm Chris Farrell for Marketplace.
Our Buy Now, Pay Later coverage is a partnership with Next Avenue, a nonprofit news platform for older adults, produced by Twin Cities PBS. In Los Angeles, I'm David Brancaccio, Marketplace Morning Report from 8 p.m., American Public Media.